Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be doing SAT practice number 8, and we're going to be doing the non-calculator section, and we're going to do all of it with explanations. So we're going to start with number 1. So we have some equation on the left and we have some equation on the right, and it's just telling us to find the value of x. So I'm going to simplify both sides before I do any changing algebra to it. So x plus x plus x is 3x, 3x plus 3x is 6x, negative 3 minus 2 is negative 5, equals 7 plus 2x. Okay, now we can just move. So we can subtract 2x from both sides, so we can get rid of the variable and put it on one side and the constants on the other side. And that's 4x. But then we can add 5 to both sides so that we can get the variable on one side and the constant. So we have 4x equals 12, which means x equals 3 because 12 divided by 4 is 3. So our answer would be D. Here we're given a graph above that shows the distance traveled D by a product conveyor belt in m minutes after the product is placed on the belt, which of the following is the equation that relates D and m. So this question is pretty straightforward, you know, 3 things: substitute, eliminate, or algebra. So I'm just going to find a point. This is 1, 2, and I'm just going to plug in 1 for minutes and see which one would work. So this one works, this one gives a half, this one gives 3, and this one gives 4. So our answer is just A. And another point here is 3, 6. And when I plug in 3 for equation A, 3 times 2 is 6, so it works. All right, how about this one? So when you see usually these type problems, it's like it's asking you to solve for something, which it is true. So it gives you all the thing that E is the estimated time, O is shortest completion time, P is longest completion time, M is most likely the completion time. But it's asking that gives P in terms of E, O, M. So you're solving for P basically. So first I'm going to get rid of the denominator by multiplying by 6 on both sides. So it's 6E equals O plus 4M plus P, but we're not done. We want to get P by itself, and this is actually pretty easy. You're just going to subtract O, and you can also subtract 4M from both sides, and that equals P, so our answer would be A. P equals 6E minus O minus 4M. Alright, now let's do this one. So in the figure, RT equals TU, so we know this is equal to this, so I'll put tick marks there, which shows that this is an isosceles triangle. And what is the value of x? So I'm going to first solve for this. So I'm going to do 180 minus 114 and get this value first. So that is 66, right? Okay. And then we can divide that by 2 because there are 2 of these, right? And then this would have to be 33 because 66 divided by 2 is 33, and this would have to be 33. And then this is a straight angle. So then this would have to be 66 degrees. And then this is a triangle right here, so we can, all triangles add up to 180 degrees total in the interior angle, so we can add 31 plus 66, which is 97, and then subtract that from 180. So 180 minus 97 is 83, so that's 83, and then it's vertical angle, so if this is 83, that makes this also 83 right here. And then now we're trying to find the angle that's right here, so we do the same thing. We do 180 minus whatever the sum of 83 plus 33 is, which is 116. And then we can subtract, and that gives us 64 degrees, so my answer would have to be C. Alright, let's go to 5. Okay, so most of the time when there's word problems, I like to draw a picture. So, and remember, when I told you like when there's triangles, shapes of some, so you should always draw pictures. So the width of a rectangle 4 is W, so I'm going to draw it, obviously. This is W. The length is 6 feet longer than the width, so we're going to say width plus 6 because that's the length, which expresses the perimeter. So perimeter is when you add up all the sides. So we have here W, and then we'll have W plus 6. So first we're going to add up all the W's, so that's 4W, and then the constants, which is 12. So it would be 4W plus 12. So our answer would be B, as in boy. Okay, let's go here. Which of the following consists of y coordinates for all the points that satisfy the system equalities above? So they have to be for both. So in my recommendation, I would do this. I would say, okay, y has to be greater than 2x minus 1. And then here, x has to be greater than 5 halves because I can divide by 2 on both sides to get that. Now, since my lowest value is 5 halves, right, and it has to be greater than that, I'm going to plug it into x. So I'll get y is equal to 5 minus 1. And that means y has to be greater than 4, which gives me B as my answer. So you got to use both values. Okay, which of the following is a set of solution set of this equation above? In my recommendation when we have problems like this, I always just try to plug them in values rather than waste time. So I'm just going to start with plugging in 0. If I plug in 0, it doesn't work, so obviously 7 can't be D. Now let's plug in -1. If I plug in -1, I'm going to get -1, which is -2 plus 6, right? It's 4, but the square root of that plus 4, so it gives you 6, and then -2 plus 3 is 1, so it's not equal to each other, so that just canceled out A and C, so we're left with B, this answer. And why I did -1 is because -1, actually I should have done -1 first, but I did 0, but since -1 is actually in 3 of the answers, it's always best to try numbers that are in a lot of the problems, because sometimes you can be in luck and all the answers could cancel out, or maybe one of them can cancel out, but it's always best to try what number is abundant. So if I put in 5 here, I get 10 plus 6, which is 16, square root of 16 is 4, 4 plus 4 is 8, and 5 plus 3 is also 8, so that's why 5 is the only one that works. Alright, let's go to number 8. So which of the following expressions is equivalent to this where x is greater than this? So I'm just going to plug them in. X cubed over 9 minus 9x over x squared minus 2x minus 3. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm actually going to just simplify. So I can get rid of an x here. That'll give me x squared minus 9. But obviously you can go further. You can do x plus 3, x minus 3. Now I'm going to solve for the bottom. I'm going to find its roots. So I could probably, if I look here, it's going to be x, and then I can put a 3 and 1. Okay, and then since this is negative, we can show that this is negative and this is positive. And now, from here, we can cancel out this and this. So we're left with x, this, and then over x plus 1, which makes it D for dog for number 8. So it's a lot of substituting and then canceling, which I talked about. Substituting, elimination, algebra, that's all what SAT is. In the xy plane, the graph of the equation above is a circle. Point P is on the circle and has coordinates of this. If PQ is the diameter, what are the coordinates of the PQ? So first, we can use this to find the radius. So the radius is 4, and 2 radiuses combined will give me the diameter, which is 8. So the diameter is 8. So if this is 10, comma, -5, well, now what we need is a value that's going to give us a point that's going to be 8 units away. Okay? So from looking at this problem, we can see, if we look at, since a y coordinate, because it's a diameter, and it's going, if I'm going to draw it actually, one sec, if I draw it on this thing, it is -6, 6, sorry, x minus 6 is 6, -5, so it's right here, and it's going to look like this, and then when the radius is like this, which is 4, right? So here, as you can see, it has to be one option. It has to be that the y coordinate changes or the x coordinate changes by 8, right? And if I add or subtract 8 to this, if I add 8, I'm going to get 3. If I subtract 8, I'm going to get -13. And that doesn't give me any of these values. So now I'm going to do the same thing. If I subtract 8, I get 2. If I add 8, I get 18. So the only option there is A, since this value would change and the other coordinate would stay the same, because that's how the diameter works. It would be this way or this way. It can be either way. Okay, number 10. A group of 202 students went on an overnight camping trip, taking 60 tents with them. Some tents held 2 people each and the rest held 4 people each. Assuming all tents were filled to a capacity and every person got to sleep in a tent, exactly how many of the tents were 2 persons? So we know that some of the tents held 2 people each and the rest held 4 people each. So in my recommendation, let's start with first dividing by 4. That's a simple way to do this. So we're going to do 4 divided by 202, and when I do that, I get 5, and then I'm going to get 0, right? And then I'm going to get a remainder of 2, right? So as you can see, if I do it this way, what do you notice? 50, if each person had 50, it would, even if there were 4, I don't think that'd be right, right? That doesn't make sense. And not just that, if you think about this, they were taking 60 tenths with them, and 50 plus 1 is only 51 tenths. We need 60 tenths, so obviously that wouldn't work. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this. So we're going to have 2x plus 4y equals 202. And then we know x tenths plus y tenths equals 60. Now we can use this and solve for a system of equations problem. So this is for the tenths and this is people. Now I'm going to multiply by 2, so I'll get 2, 2, and then I'll make this 120. And now I'm just going to subtract. Okay, actually, yep, that's what I'm going to do. And that's going to give me, if I subtract 2y, and then 202 minus 120, which is, I believe, 82. Okay, so y equals 41. But now we can just do 60 minus 41 because 41 is for 4 people 10, but we want the answer for the 2 people 10, how many 2-person tenths there were. So that gives us 19. So our answer would be C for this one. Okay, let's keep going. Which of the following could be equation for the graph? So first I'm going to start with looking at the roots. So it's at 0, 0, this, and this. So that's x plus 3 is one of the roots most likely, and x minus 2 is one of the roots, and then you have 0, 0. So looking from off the bat, these 2 equations will not work for sure. Okay, so now we're left with a and b. And now let's say you're not really sure if it's x or if it's x squared, right? In my recommendation, I would just plug in a value. So let's plug in 2. Let's plug in something that would actually be helpful. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to look here, and I can see that right here, if I look really closely, it's going to, -1, if I plug it in, it has to be approximately close to -10. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in -1 and see what I get. So if I plug in -1 right here, I'm going to get -1 times -3 times -1 plus 3, which is 2. And now my answer is not going to be -4 sure, so A cancels out. So now let's try B. -1 squared is 1, and then -1 minus -2 is -3, and then -1 plus 3 is 2. So as you can see, it gives me -6. So the A didn't even give me a negative answer, but B did, so obviously B would have to be your answer. Okay. 2A over B equals 1/2. What is the value of B over A? So I'm just going to use the butterfly method and multiply like this. So I'm going to get 4A equals B. Then I'm going to divide by A on both sides. So I get 4 equals, right? 4 equals B over A. So my answer is D. Okay, let's do this one. So oil and gas production in a certain area dropped from 4 million barrels in 2000 to 1.9 million barrels in 2013. Assuming that oil and gas production decreased at a constant rate, which of the following linear functions best models after the year of 2000? So what I recommend is I plug in, so it was 4 million barrels when it was 2000, right? So if I plug in, so if this is considered 0, right? So when I plug in 0, it should equal 4. Now that after 0, it should be 13. So if I plug in 13, I should get 1.9, right? If I plug in 13 here, I am not going to get A and B for sure, because obviously you're going to get a bigger number. Now if I plug in 13 here, I get negative 21 over 10 plus 4, right, which is negative 2.1 plus 4, which is 1.9. So as you can see, looking at this problem, C should be your answer. Now I'm just going to check. Now I'm going to get here 1.9 plus 4, which will give me 2.1. So obviously this one would not be right. So our answer is C. All right, let's go to number 14. How many solutions are there to the system equation above? All right, so to figure out how many solutions are there to this, you're just going to solve for y equals, and then you're just going to put them there and see what happens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put y equals x squared plus 3x minus 7. Then I'll get y equals, and I'm going to put all this on the other side. So it'd be 5x minus 8. I'm going to put them equal to each other, so I'll get x squared plus 3x minus 7 equals 5x minus 8. Okay, I am going to subtract, so I'll get x squared minus 2x plus 8, which is basically plus 1. And as you can see, that's basically just x minus 1 squared. So there's only one solution, which is 1, which makes our answer C. Okay, so the functions g and h are defined above. What is the value of h of 0? So h of 0 is basically 1 minus g of 0. So 1 minus g of 0. And if I put 0 here, I'm going to get 0 minus 1, which is negative 1. So 1, and then a negative 1 here, which is basically 1 plus 1, which is 2. Okay? Alright, now we're going to do the open-ended questions. If A is a solution of the equation above and A is greater than 0, which of the following is A? So I'm just going to use my handy-dandy roots. So I have x, and if I want to get a 1, the only way I can do that is 4 and 3. And then I put a negative here and I put a positive here. So it says A is greater than 0, so therefore x has to equal 3 and not negative 4. So our answer for A would also be 3. Okay? The sum of this and this can be written as this. So what are A, B? What is the value of A, B, and C? What is the value of A plus B plus C is the question. So first I'm going to do the sum. So that gives me, when I add negative 2x squared plus 3x squared, that gives me x squared. And then x plus 7x is 8x. And then 31 plus negative 8 is plus 23. Now we have 1 plus 8 plus 23 as my roots. Okay, 8 plus 23 is 31, 31 plus 1 is 32, so my answer is 32. Okay, the reason why this is right is because this is A, this is B, and this is C, after you sum them. Okay, let's go to number 18. If x and y satisfy system equations above, which of the following is y? What is the value of y is the question. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of x, and the way to do that is to add, because that gets rid of x. So I have 4y equals, and then negative 3.5 plus 9.5, which is, I believe, 6. Okay. And then I get y equals 6/4, or you can say 3/2, or you can say 1.5. Either one is fine. Always simplify your answer though, just to be on the safe side. A startup company opened with 8 employees. The company's growth assumes that 2 new employees will be hired each quarter, so that means every 3 months for the first 5 years. If an equation in the form y equals ax plus b is to represent y and x quarters after the company opened, what is the value of b? So what b is the y-intercept, what it starts with. And since it opened up with 8 employees, the answer for b would just be 8. So y-intercept is usually what the initial amount is, which is 8, what it started with. Okay, a circle question. So in a circle above, point A is the center, and the length arc BC is 2/5. So we're saying this part right here is 2/5. Okay. And the circumference is, 2/5 of the circumference of the circle. I'm sorry about that. So what is the value of x? Okay, so this is actually pretty simple. So circumference, it's saying it's 2/5 of 2 pi r, basically, right? Because 2 pi r is the circumference. And remember, there's 360 degrees in a triangle, so we know that. So we can use that information to help us solve. And I recommend that you're going to just do 2/5 times 360 to see where that gets you first. And when you do that, okay, I'm going to multiply on the top, so that gives me 720. And then I'm going to have to divide by 5. So 5 divided by 720 gives me 1, minus 5 gives me 22, gives me 4, and then I'm going to have 20, and then that gives me 4. So as you can see, 2/5 of just 360 is 144 degrees, so my answer is 144 degrees. So if I just take 2/5 of whatever the total, so since a circle is 360 degrees, and I multiply by that, I'm going to get my answer. Alright, so that is it. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, please let me down below. And thank you so much, and goodbye.